We're recording.
Okay. Well, welcome again, and we may have more people join. This is people are we know we have heard from folks. One, I think this is happening at ODE as well as everywhere else. We have people battling illness, battling their children's illness, and I don't know if battling is the right word, but negotiating, managing, supporting, caring for. And it's coming back to school, as Jackson just stated, has been a rough go coming back here. So this meeting today was an optional meeting, and it's just a small time for us to get more focused on some of the research that we started, and just to provide us a little more time to look at do a statewide scan and figure out what are some places that we want to, like I always think of Brene Brown talks about worthy rivals. Like I'm always looking at like, who are the states? I always have some states in my mind that I look at that have some things, and not always, because I think Oregon really has some unique pieces to it. So when we look at the national scan, what is it that we want to replicate, borrow from, even if it's a word or a phrase or a graphic? And then we're going to kind of, that's like the broad, and then we're going to get pretty narrow to say, hey, what's going on in Oregon right now? Where are the bright spots in Oregon, and what do we have happening already around SEL? Just so that when we write our proposed kind of framework and standards for this report, we're able to say, we were able to look around and we were able to see, and we took the best of everything and also created what we're bringing forth in this report. So that's the plan. And I'm going to go ahead and just turn it to Vanessa, because she has a little activity for us tonight. And
yeah, thank you. So before we get to the activity, there is a sign up sheet there. So if you did not get it or just need a reminder, I would love to meet with you in a one-on-one check-in. So there is a sign up there. That's the link that you could go to. And I'm just curious to hear about your strengths, your passions for the work, and just start building relationships and connections and getting to know you as a person outside of this group. So would love to be able to meet with you in that way if you have the space and time in your schedule. And yeah, if we could go to the next slide. So like Alexa said, my warm welcome really comes out of that spirit of there's a lot going on right now. The ground is shaking. There's a lot of moving pieces. Schools are going into virtual learning. Staffing is an issue. I was at Franklin High School today being a hall monitor because they were down some hall monitors. So we're all being stretched in all kinds of ways, and we're all giving in ways that perhaps we didn't anticipate that we would. And here we are, right, doing what our students and our communities need us to show up. So I wanted to ground us with a poem, and I just should share, I was a language arts teacher, so poetry is just kind of my love language. It's the place I turn to when I don't really know what to say. Someone's usually said it much better. So I feel like this poem kind of really captures that moment that we're in and the way and the many faces of giving. So I'm just going to read it. And then as I read it, I'm going to invite you to put in the chat to think about how you gave of yourself today. And that could be in any way that feels right for you. Maybe you gave to yourself, your children, your family, at a school site, however it is that you want to define that, be thinking of that as I share this poem. And it's called When Giving is All We Have by Alberto Rios, who was an Arizona poet laureate. And here it goes. One river gives its journey to the next. We give because someone gave to us. We give because nobody gave to us. We give because giving has changed us. We give because giving could have changed us. We have been better for it. We have been wounded by it. Giving has many faces. It is loud and quiet, big though small, diamond in wood nails. Its story is old, the plot worn, and the pages too. But we read this book anyway, over and again. Giving is, first and every time, hand to hand, mine to yours, yours to mine. You gave me blue and I gave you yellow. Together, we are simple green. You gave me what you did not have, and I gave you what I had to give. Together, we made something greater from the difference. So with that, let's just see how we all shared ourselves today with the world. Nice. Checked in on a good friend. Taught someone how to use Google Drive. That's a big one. That's an eye opener. Love it. Gave a special note to someone celebrating a birthday. Yeah. Gave space and time for a colleague who was needing that. Awesome. Noticing that. Drove carpool. Yes, really important and necessary. Shared lots of knowledge with some and gave a listening ear to others. Slept in so I wouldn't be so tired. Very important. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing, and just want you to honor all that you do every day, every moment in giving. So with that, that'll take us to our goals. So just kind of to frame our time together, we're going to review other states' implementation of SEL frameworks and standards. So we're going to start exploring and diving into some of those states and the work that they've been doing. And then determine artifacts to spotlight for discussion at our next whole group SEL meeting, which will be on January 24th. So we're thinking ahead, like what are the things that we are coming across that we feel are really helpful, important, that we want to highlight and spotlight when we come together with the bigger group. So that's kind of what we're aiming towards down the line. And with that, I'll pass it over to Beth.
Alexa, did you want to set the stage for this?
Yeah, I think, knowing that, so the first time we tried this activity, we had like 15 states per group. It was a big ask, and we gave people way too little time, if you remember that. So this was kind of an extension of that. Since then, Beth and I, Nessa, we started, doing a lot of digging in on the states ourselves and kind of finding the relevant links that'll take you right there. We also just kind of took it and pared it down a little bit so that we're not looking at all. Castle named these 15 states. We kind of just took it down to say, all right, where can we focus on these states? And we picked a few for you to look at today. And I think what would be most helpful, just kind of knowing who's here. One, Beth is going to model with Wisconsin, what she noticed. But basically, we're looking for kind of two things. But I'm also Jackson, I know you've had like a long day and everything else, but having a student perspective and looking at how states, like your lens as a student in this is really important, and all of us too, but like where is student voice incorporated into the standards? A lot of times adults make decisions of what they think is great for kids, and then we roll it out and it does not land well. So I think I'm adding Beth, that's why, in case you're like, oh, here goes Alexa, she's ad-libbing. I just think we wanted to look at kind of three areas. One, how does the state, are they, with SEL standards, how are they, first of all, defining, and what's their vision for SEL? I think that's a big piece for us to look at. And if there's something that we think that's something that we would like to replicate, or we think there's some strong bones in there that we want to kind of move into our work, we would put that down as a recommendation of like, this would be a state to look at their definition or vision. The other part is, as you know, we have an integrated mental health model. So we know that SEL does not, like, just by doing some SEL lessons, we're not going to move the dial, that we have to look in a whole context of mental health and well-being. And so how well do other states do that, and how well do they look at it from like an asset-based lens? They're not only looking at student needs, deficits, but what do we see? Are there any artifacts in the way that a state talks about children, talks about teenagers, talks about them in a way that looks like, I really love the way they phrase this around students, or things to avoid. Like, this is just a term that we should be avoiding, and we should not be saying this. We should be moving away from this type of language. So I think those two pieces, and I would add, the third I was going to say to add is, how is student voice incorporated? Did they use student voice in shaping this? Is there, do we see students show up anywhere on their website? So that's our plan. That's going to give a little bit of a model for each slide that we put in here, and you have edit access to the slideshow, but each slide if you look at the title of the state, that's the link that'll take you right to their standards. Deirdre, you said you have been teaching in this area, you know this. So if you're looking at this and going, where's Kansas? Oh my gosh, Kansas has to be here. Please add Kansas. Or, Jackson, if you're best friends in Colorado and you feel like Colorado has the best stuff, or Kristen, like you've been reaching out to other states. By the way, I love your little person who's here too. And they also any of your children can also be involved in this and looking at these. So, don't feel like the states that we picked, if you know of another state that we're missing, this is our workspace today. And that's what this meeting's for. We only have an hour. We're just trying to get our headset, and then we'll kind of be able to bring forth some recommendations to the larger group in 2 weeks. And I'll turn it over to Beth to do a quick. So again, let's add a look for in there of student voice. And so I'm just going to let you remember that one. It won't be on a slide.
Thanks, Alexa. Yeah, so we just picked the 5 for today of the slides, but like Alexa was saying, if there's other states that you all want to discuss today or go deeper in, we can. So if you go to the next slide, I'm just going to go ahead and jump into Wisconsin, because when I worked backwards. So I'm just going to give Wisconsin as an example of what I kind of elevated from that state. So this state provided their framework using 7 guiding principles. And so what I saw was the commitment to equity, which aligns with our integrated model for mental health. They use a strength-based lens. That's one of their guiding principles. A systems approach, which also aligns with our integrated model. Strengthening adult capacity, so focus on the adults. And then partners with students, families, and communities. So that partnership was key to them. And then build and sustain resilience. And then the last was access to learn. And so these were those 7 guiding principles that really that they were able to lift up and elevate as their framework for their state. What I also liked about the state is that they provided a roadmap for implementation, which was really helpful. There was a graphic that kind of brought it all together, but there was 9 areas within this graphic. And so one of them was making socio-emotional learning a priority, integrating into academic instruction, which is what we're tasked with for our state. Creating an environment that supports socio-emotional learning, which also aligns with our model for mental health. Providing training and supports for socio-emotional learning programs and practices, coordinating efforts to support all systems, using data, so use of data to access progress, focus on equity, incorporating student voice. So when Alexa was saying a look for, that was another look for that they do provide information around how to incorporate student voice within how they implement socio-emotional learning within their schools or within their districts. And then the last was involving families and communities, which was really another great aspect. So what I saw across what they had was that their what they called the MLSS, and it was a multi-level system of support. So similar to an MTSS. They had equity, they had culturally responsive, and they had trauma informed, which they were going to be building out and developing soon. So those are some of the things that I saw as far as for the framework. If you go to the next slide, I'm just going to highlight what I saw for the standards. And for their standards, they decided to go their own way. So they did look at CASEL. They incorporated CASEL's 5 core competencies, but they really were interested in kind of developing their own competencies, which are kind of like their standards. And so the way that they did it is an overarching structure. So there was 3 areas. So there was there was the emotional development, which incorporated the self-awareness, self-management, focus, attention, social awareness, the self-concept, which is the self-awareness, self-management, and then the social competence. So those 3, the social competence is the social awareness, relationship skills, and decision-making. And in some of those, the way that they reframed the way was really with an equity focus, which was really nice to kind of see how they were able to incorporate that in and connect that to learning, which was really great. So the competencies were organized developmentally into grade bands. So you could really see how over time students would then develop individually over across the different grade levels. And then what I would recommend and kind of elevate from this was the have you all review the guiding principles, because I really felt that those aligned closely with our state and kind of like our values. So I really wanted to highlight that.
And Beth has George there also adding some pieces here to our SEL. But we wanted to provide that. That's just kind of a model if we were going to type in, hi, George. So that was our plan for tonight, is to kind of take a peek. We can either do that as whole group. We can split into, we have a small group. We can split into breakout rooms of 2 groups and just kind of work through some of the states. We did get to meet with Washington today because Washington had similar legislation and they had a legislative report. And so we've done some work on Washington. That's probably the one we're most familiar with as a ODE team, just because, again, we started looking at them and said, wait, we want to meet with you people. So we did, and we have some things we can bring forth from Washington. But I'm going to what do you think? Do you want to do whole group or do we want to split up? We have half an hour just to really dig in and kind of create something like this, that what we did for Wisconsin, something similar for the other states. And what we might want to bring, if there are artifacts that we feel like we need to bring forth to the bigger group on 2 weeks from now, the 24th. And Luce, are you saying something exciting?
I'm getting there. I can't even make a decision, to be honest with you, because we're so small, and I could definitely see the value of sticking together. But it's also appealing to do divide and conquer. And I know this is not helpful, but I'm comfortable either way. And with 30 minutes, I'm not sure how many we're going to get done, because it takes a little minute to get there and look at it. So that's my feedback, but anybody else have a strong preference?
I feel like I have a strong preference for kind of what you were saying as well. So if we just divide and conquer, we'll get farther than if we're doing one at a time. And I also, I want to push some of Kristen's work as well, in that if states also have teacher education standards, if that at all can be something that people are kind of looking for, because I know Kristen's been looking into model states. Guy was looking at Massachusetts, for instance. They have both teacher prep and student. And so it's nice to see how those are intertwined or if they're totally separate. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, so another look for we can add in. Alexa, I think something also that I can do is I can look at, and we can all see what other people from the past meeting had put into the notes that we can maybe pull into the slides to kind of elevate. So that's also something that we could do and honor what the review that they've done.
Let's divide into 3 groups. I'm just going to make an executive decision because it looks like, so 3 groups, and yeah, we can try to kind of split up the ODE folks. Jennifer, can you split us up into 3 groups? There'll be 1 group of 2. And then we'll just assign, unless people can just shout out right now, if they know there's a state, they've been like, I really wanted to check out Montana. You can call your state.
Where is our list? Sorry.
It is in our, so I put the, hopefully people saw, I put the, I'll add them again, I think I did the slides for tonight. Did you all get
Oh,
those?
yes. Yes, sorry. That's it.
Perfect. So we have the states we have that we listed are Washington State. And again, I think we can skip that one unless you're really curious. Michigan, is a really strong state. We've heard a lot about good things. Montana, Minnesota. So I think we could just do those three.
Okay.
Michigan, Montana, and Minnesota. And Jennifer, do you have our groups?
And how long do you want?
Let's do it until 5:52.
Okay. All right. I am breaking everybody out.
And then are you going to name our groups like there's going to be with a state, or should we name a group, or should we just assign it?
Right now they're 1, 2, 3. Do you want me to name them?
Nope, let's just go ahead and do, if it's 1, you are the first, so you're Michigan. If you're 2, you're I'm going by memory because I have you up in my slides, not the other one. It's Michigan, I think, Montana, if you're 2. And if you're 3, we're skipping Washington State. Oh my goodness.
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Okay,
Okay.
all the M's. That's right.
And I will go ahead and stop recording us for this activity.
Pause share.
So much. I just
Yes, Alexa, and I'm going to be rooting. Jackson and I are rooting for Montana, and Beth. Montana was outrageous, man. I want to go there.
That is great. Okay, I'll let Vanessa close. Thank you so much. We are gonna, I'll look at this unless anybody has anything they just want to add here, but our ODE team is going to meet. We're going to figure out what we're going to bring forward to the next group. But I have my mind already just stirring. Deirdre shared some like other great things too. So we went into Michigan and then we traveled to Harvard. So it was really exciting. All right. So Vanessa, do you want to close us?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So thanks for all of your input. We're excited to look those over. And we're just going to end with what is one thing you can do with what you learned today. So thinking about all that you gathered, states you may want to visit. What is one thing? If you could put it on the chat, or you can unmute and speak if that feels better.
Jackson, I think Vanessa can introduce you to some people before she leaves. EPS.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That does it for us today. So thanks for populating that on the chat. It's good to make some initial connections, and I look really forward to seeing you on January 24th, which is not too far away. So wish you a happy, pleasant evening, and we'll see you soon.
Everyone, thank you.